Good evening and welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I'm so glad that you're here tonight, be it in person or online, here to celebrate the work of racial equality, the work of continuous faith in the midst of a storm, the work of Universal Spirit Center. Radiant faith is my friend today, and I see my life in a different way. I'm not excited, and I'm not crawling in despair, but I'm better than I have been. At the center of my sober mind, I am calm, I am sure all is well. But I know that every valley shall be exalted, every mountain lay low. I'm living in the desert, the rose is blooming on the highway for my God, blooming on the highway for my God. The years on the road, so narrow and long, taught me to listen to life's sacred song. Can't you hear it? And even if you fall, radiant faith keeps you strong, and it gives you the courage to stand. Feel the song, feel the song, and move on. But be sure that every valley shall be exalted, every mountain lay low. I'm living in the desert, the rose is blooming on the highway for my God, blooming on the highway for my God. Radiant faith is my friend, and I know that the way has been prepared for me on the highway. No dead-end streets on the highway. We gotta do the work on the highway. You're walking in forever on the highway. There's no hitchhiking on the highway. You hear a choir of angels on the highway. You're walking in forever on the highway for my God. Every valley shall be exalted, every mountain lay low. I'm living in the desert, the rose is blooming on the highway for my God, blooming on the highway for my God. Oh, I'm blooming on the highway
Is mine today.
for my God.
Radiant faith is
for my God. Thank you, Linda. That was beautiful. Peace and blessings. Thank you. So, as we stand in this divine space to be ready, hello. We stand in this divine space to bless our global community, to recognize that right here, right now, we are embarking in a journey. We are embarking in a awareness of new consciousness. And so we must give thanks for where we've come from and what we are going into. And know that this divine love and peace is guiding us in that. And that no matter how chaotic it is, God is in it. So in this very moment, let's just drop into the center of the earth. Drop into the very center of the earth and in this core, that the light of God immerse through you and shine to every part of this world. Let it be all that there is. Let you know that it is all that there is. Giving thanks and praise for this moment, I say, and so it is. So I have to give a shout out to my sister, Ricky Byers Beckwith, that on October the 10th, 70, my girl would be turning 70. 70 years of music, 70 years of inspiration. So Ricky, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, happy birthday, my sister. And Kitchen Conversations, our theme song says it all. It says that if we are caught in chains, if your brother or sister is caught in chains, then we can never be free. Well, you better listen, my sisters and brothers, 'cause if you do, you will hear the voices that are calling across the years. And they're crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land, and they will until we all understand that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us in chains, none of us are free. Oh, there are people in the darkness, 'cause they can't see the light. If you don't say it's wrong, that says it's right. We've got to give to each other. Show our brothers and sisters that we care. Got to get the message out loud and clear that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us in chains, none of us are free. 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 If one of us is in chains, don't you know we can never right, Ladili, working it out. So beautiful. So now let us get ready for tonight. Tonight we're talking about what have we learned. With so much going on, with so much happening in the world, I thought it would be a beautiful time for us to just kind of do a little overview. So I'm going to go over and sit in this next section. What have we learned? Well, I know this seems like a clear thing, but I think we've learned that racism exists. We've learned that it is a systemic system. Some of us have learned that. And through the pandemic and George Floyd, it really put a light on racism for our other brothers and sisters that were not necessarily aware that we had not overcome, that there was still this the system that's running. And so I just wanted to remind us what a systemic racism system is. A system and structure that has procedures or processes that disadvantage people of color. And, it's an interesting thing because there's always this conversation, can black people or people of color be racist? And there's one train of thought that, no, they can't be racist because they don't have the power over the systems. However, they can be prejudiced. They can, some feel, exude or exhibit racist behavior because that is what is being portrayed upon them. So it's really quite an amazing thing. One of the things, as we look at this overall picture, are just things that are in place. So this was quite interesting to me. The net worth of a typical white family, $171,000. $171,000. That's the net worth of a typical white family. That's 10 times greater than a black family. I mean, I know people didn't want to believe it or understand it, but so black families, 17,000, kind of like a normal for the year. $17,000 in California, you're in poverty. In most places, you're in poverty. But through this system, what we've learned is that there are things that have been put in place. That's why it's important to understand this is beyond what a person feels or thinks. The system has been put in place in such a way that it continues unfolding whether you believe it or not. That's one of the crucial things that I think and I hope that you've experienced and understood, that this system is like a train and it's on a track and it's just going. And so unless you become aware of it and decide to participate in helping to uproot it, then you're a part of the system that keeps this system in place. Now, great professor, Dr. Johnson, outlined 3 steps people can take to address systemic racism. We must acknowledge that racism actually exists. And believe it or not, Black Lives Matter for a lot of people was like the first encounter of recognizing like racism isn't over. No. In my world, it was never over. But for some people, not recognizing that, yeah, racism is here, it's alive, it's well, and it's been systematically running for years. So recognizing, that's one of the things that I think that we can acknowledge and be proud of that through the work that we're doing here at Universal Spirit Center, through the work that other centers and organizations are doing, that finally there is a recognition that racism actually exists, that there is, and it's beyond just people having hate for a person's color. Most people are really recognizing that it is a system that's running, and that's really important. That's important to recognize that this system will include you either on the side that keeps the system going, or it will thwart you on the other side to stop you, or attempt to at least. So one of the things we must acknowledge that racism exists. The other thing is to get involved with different organizations. I think one of the most beautiful things is that I get to see organizations that are sprouting up all over the United States of people that are committing themselves to equality, to recognizing, and it's not just with protesting. This upheaval that's happening, our Racial Equality Project, we recently participated in the Reproductive March. You know, that song that I sing for the theme, which Dormini introduced me to, that I have to give her love and praise on that song. And it was not my intention to have a theme song, but the thing about that song that's so beautiful is that until we recognize that as long as I condemn you, as long as I restrict you, I am restricted. There's just no two ifs, ands, and buts about it. So we see our country, we see our world bubbling up because restrictions are everywhere. People are trying to restrict a woman's rights. We're a system that has never acknowledged that this racist system has enabled and disabled a people from moving forward as much as they could, but a system that doesn't support us being the greatest nation in the world. It doesn't. And so I love that song for that, because it reminds me that if I hold anything against anyone, then I too am in prison, and I'm merely doing the same thing. So to get involved with organizations that are on the front line, to find actions that you can do. Our Racial Equality Project, we do a lot of things, and we were doing so much we decided to pull back. Because we're like, maybe we're giving people too much to do. But it is an awareness that people are coming around to awaken to things that you can do beyond, say, then yeah, I want people to have equality. That in actuality is really standing on the sideline. And so this time and space is calling for you, if it's be petitions that you participate in, calling your congressman and congresswoman to let them know, your senators, to let them know your voice, to speak your voice. That's important. Before a campaign of voting comes around, to be consistent in that, to write letters. These are things that do matter, that you can do. And so once again, on our REP page, abbreviation, Racial Equality Project page, we always have things that you can do to participate, and that will also educate and help you become aware of systemic racism. The last thing he talks about is electing leaders. That's so important, that we recognize now that when you vote, and I think I've never appreciated voting as much as I do now. Before, it was a given that I could vote. I could not. But now when I recognize that literally there are people that are trying to restrict the vote from the masses. That when in Florida, the campaign that they took up, that people that had gone to prison, that had did their time, that they should be able to vote. I'm in agreement with that. You don't have to be, but I'm in agreement with that. We speak this word that you go to jail, you do your time, you pay the time, and when you're out, your life starts anew. But that's not what we do. We consistently punish people that have gone to prison. We punish them with a record that says you're not some person that we can trust to be hired. We don't want you to vote. So these are things that are up right now. Understand, this is up on the table. I didn't even realize the power of 3 strikes. I thought, well, if they, I was in that world, in that illusion, and I'll own it. People, 3 strikes is a way of keeping the system in place. Keeping a system that spends more money policing than in education, that in unshelteredness, that in health care. More money. So, picking your leaders and making them accountable. Calling, writing, once they're in, letting them know your voice. It matters. It truly matters. So one of the hot topics that has come up, that is on the playing field right now, CRT, critical race theory. My sweet Reverend Sarah is over there bouncing her head. Critical race theory. I thought I was in a daydream when I heard critical race theory. Why would they ever teach that in schools? I was like, what? I was like, how could that be wrong to teach history of America? For me, it's not just Black history, it's America's history being taught truthfully. And yes, some of it is dark and ugly. And here's the thing. I think of it like a family secret. You know that family secret that maybe 1 or 2 know and everybody else is speculating. They maybe not. The secret doesn't die. It moves on from generation to generation. And lo and behold, when it finally comes out, it devastates. It devastates everyone and everything. It portrayed a story of something that people thought was true, but wasn't. People feel betrayed. They feel left out. They feel unincluded. So I compare that to our history. That as long as we continue to not teach a true history, to not embrace our children, to be able to understand, to talk, to be able to have a conversation about it, we are keeping the big lie, the big secret. So, what is critical race theory? It says, it would be great if we had a book to improve our national history curriculum at this juncture across America. We do not have a sufficient book that clearly states how the system of slavery has impacted not only then, but still at this present moment. I was like, wow. That's the secret. We have an American secret that has been breeding and living, that there was a system put in place. Unlike a lot of other cultures that were enslaved, there was a time and an essence, and then once the leaders had been disbanded, that system was dead. It was killed. But one of the, one of the great things about the slavery system that they created here in America was that they did create a system. They created something that it could change dynamics. It could change appearances. It could change. But the real reality is that it kept growing. It kept breeding and festering. And so critical race theory is not about belittling, hating, badgering, beating up anybody. It's about recognizing an American history that has been a big secret, that has kept all of us, and when I say all, I mean all. It's kept every person of color. It's kept every white brother and sister. It's kept any and everybody at a disadvantage because it's a lie. It's a lie that has been bred and fed to all. And it seeps through us, through our TV, through our radio, through radio talk, through books, through all of our social platforms. It's here. And that's why I asked or said one of the greatest things was to recognize that racism exists, that bias exists. And that means that it's easy for us to look at our neighbor and go, oh, yeah, you're a racist. But this work, we got to look at ourselves and see where our bias is, where our fear is. And so critical race theory has really kicked off quite the conversation, if I'm being polite, the conversation. And for teachers that are in support of teaching history or in support of educating our children in a way that embraces everyone, they have a fight. They have a fight on their hands with parents, with their ignorance, with their fear, that show up, protest, yell, scream, kick. Because understand this, just like a child, if you have something that your parents took away from you and you didn't want it, some kids fall out, kick, scream. I remember I was at a store and I saw this little girl. She picked up a doll and her mother said, no, my baby, you can't have that doll. This little girl fell out on the floor, was kicking and screaming and going about, crying. And the mother said, okay, all right, you can have it. I thought, this is great. I will do this. And I didn't do it that day, but it was like, a couple of days later, I'm out shopping with my mom, and I saw this little doll that I wanted. And I was like, oh, Mommy, I want this. And she said, no, baby, we're not shopping for you today. I was like, but I want it. And she looked at me and said, Gino, that's when, Gino, we are not shopping for you today. And I started in. And I remember I fell to my knees. And I will say I was one of those kids. I could call on Jesus in a minute. I don't know where it came from, but I could. I fell to my knees. Jesus, please give me this doll. And start kicking and screaming. And to this day, I remember my mother's face. My mother was a very beautiful Coco. And I swore she just turned like a beacon bright red. Was like, oh my God. And with one hand, my mother swooped me up and took me into the room. And yeah, for you that are saying, oh, she should have hit you, my mama spanked that booty. Yes, she did. And, there were some great things that I learned that day. Number one, I could never, ever fall out and have a tantrum because my mother, it wasn't enough for her to hit the legs. She had to talk to me while she was hitting the legs. Don't you ever fall out, crying, having a temper tantrum with me in the store. We were in the bathroom stall. And I'm trying to move around. I was that child. I'd be dancing and moving. You'd have to chase me. But in that bathroom stall, there was really nowhere to run. And my mama had control. And And I didn't get it. Like, well, why did it work for this other child? And it took me some years, I have to say, to understand the difference. But it's like that. I can imagine with teachers that are saying, look, we just want to teach history. Now that it's open, now that it's out there, now, because there were teachers that were teaching it, that it wasn't part of the curriculum, that would get in trouble for it, or they'd get sanctioned, or they'd have to teach it on the down low. But now that it's out there are a lot of teachers like, yeah, let's do it. Let's teach our history. Let's teach some truth. And there are parents that are having temper tantrums. There are states and senators and congresspeople that are having temper tantrums because they are afraid. Wait, what happens if people know the truth? What will our kids think of us? That is such a selfish little consciousness. This is so much bigger than the little I. This is the I am consciousness birthing all of us into a greater world, a greater country. And just like you can't move forward if you don't let go of your past, we must see it and recognize it. And at some point, somebody, somewhere need to say, I'm sorry for something. I don't know. Think about it. Sorry that we have taught our children not to respect each other. That there's been this veil that we've had over it. So, critical race theory. One of the things, so let me finish this statement. So it said, America, we do not have a sufficient book that clearly states how the system of slavery has impacted not only then, but still at this present moment. Now, this systematic system that was put into place by the forefathers of this country. This was a system put into place. When one of the shows I did on certain laws that are still in effect, that they have laws in Virginia and other southern states that state that a black person is not a human being. It is an object. It is one that someone can own. That's still on the books. It is still on the books in certain places, Virginia being one of them, that you can lynch a black person. We can't move forward as a country with those things. So these are the things that we're learning about, and these are the things that I call you to check California. Check California. Check the laws of California. Some of the laws that are old and outdated that must be dropped, alleviated, cut out, done with. We see with the abortion laws that this is something that who would have thought at this time that we would have to be out fighting for the rights of a woman's body. And I can appreciate those that say, oh, it's against God, it's against this. And as I saw this sign on last Saturday, so brilliantly stated, then don't get an abortion. You have that choice. There were so many signs that said, if men were the ones giving babies, abortions, we wouldn't even have this conversation. There would be no conversation. So when we see all this stuff coming up, we're learning that it requires us. It requires us. It requires us to be diligent in our awareness, to be diligent in recognizing that we must speak our voice. And whatever is calling you, your voice must be heard. So to continue this, most states do not mandate a specific amount of black history at all, which means I went to Catholic school. The little bit of black history that I learned, nothing. Nothing, yeah. Principal Sarah is over there shaking her head. Nope. Nothing. I have learned more in kitchen conversations than, and I wasn't embarrassed at one point, but I was like, you got to get over it. I've learned more through our Racial Equality Project, Kitchen Conversations, because of the work that I've had to do to be able to share. And I'm very happy that I'm having this journey, that I'm in this space now to understand that I have to be accountable. I have to recognize, and my voice has to be heard. And so, recently one of my friends was talking about, oh, nothing's ever going to change. And I said, that right there, that's such a cop-out. That cop-out, I can't participate with you in that cop-out. Because if you don't do anything, then nothing changes for you. But my world is changing because I have a voice, I have a spirit, I have a heart, and I have a community that is standing in a yes consciousness for equality for all. So we can do things together, absolutely. There are a lot of white people who really don't want to learn or know the truth about America, which brings us back to critical race theory, which is a way of examining our history, not black history, not brown history, our history, everybody in America's history. The Indians, the blacks, the Hispanic, Jewish, white, everybody, our history. It's us, it's America. America really is this beautiful melting pot of all different cultures and races. And yes, there have been people that have been given credit for America that we need to check the history on that too. Our past in a way of not pretending that racism does not exist and that it still exists. Critical race theory. We heard video about it. We just revisited it again. So it is yours that when you have family or friends talking about school, what critical race theory is, it's an opportunity for us to learn our history, for our children to learn our history. Nothing can be wrong with learning who and what we were so that we can be a better we tomorrow. Defund the police. Uh-oh, defund the police. Defund the police. Defund the police. I got my Angela Davis hair on today. Defund the police. The name, I know, I wish they'd come up with another name. But for me, defund the police is really about us revisiting how we're being policed and how we can help really create a police organization that supports all. What we have now is what was built in the system. And the system that was built, policing was built to, what do I want to say, to harbor, to stop, to control black people. It was not built for white people. It was built to stop, to control black people. It was another way of keeping slavery happening without it being slavery. You know, they had and they still do on most states, have a loitering law. This law, which is still in effect in certain parts of California, if I'm correct, if you're standing in front of your house, just hanging out, and you're black, in certain areas, that gives the police the right to ask you what you're doing while you're out in front of your house, Why are you standing here? And if you respond, I'm in front of my house, I'm at home, what do you want with me? That's disrespectful. There's a whole nother thing that unfolds. You know, one of the things that I think people have recognized is that the system of racism towards black men, young black people, with the police is violent and has been violent. And just a couple of things here. Policing in the U.S. was established to maintain, to maintain white supremacy. I know that may be upsetting to some, but that when we talk about a system, we talk about something that has been put in place before you and I were born. And this system has been breeding and growing and expanding. And some of us have felt it, and some of us have not. The police are not a neutral body, and the institution is inherently biased. In the U.S., slave patrols and night watchers were the beginning of a racially directed system of law enforced designed to ensure capital for white settlers. Do you even realize that when, for so long, the police force was 95% white? And when they did hire some black and people of color, they could not carry guns. They could not stop a white person. These are things that, you know, and I know you say that's not happening today. It's happening in a different way today. The blue, the color blue, is so much more important than a person. When an officer is put under the pressure to be blue and not to be in the justification of the laws, but to do what blue says, blue being the representation of the police, that's out of alignment. What you saw for George Floyd, the other officers, while they were indicted, was that you saw blue in operation, that there was an officer there that was out of control. And whether they were fearful, didn't care, this is how it's always done, none of them stepped to this man to stop him from killing another human being. We have to restructure the police. So we've learned that, and even if you're on the teeter-tottering, you're starting to recognize that a restructuring of policing is important. It's something we got to do. You know, they talk about policing doesn't keep us safe. Despite the billions of dollars spent every year on policing, more than 15,000 people were killed by gun violence in 2019. This was mind-blowing. The first day of court for Derek Chauvin, on that day, 64 people were killed by the cops. 64 across America, not just Minneapolis. Minneapolis has a huge challenge with policing blacks and that separation. Very big challenge, pretty much like the South. But it's mind-blowing. Down the street in Minneapolis, the young man that was stopped because of his license, the tags, and forgive me, Dante, he was stopped because of his tags. There was a comedian that said, so we have come to the point that it's okay that if somebody's tags are laid or they're not registered, that's all right to kill them over that because they run. And when you think about it, because I've had people ask, well, why did he run? Well, why would he? And that's part of the system that we're saying, that a system that it's okay to shoot somebody, that you would have your hand, whether you thought it was a gun or a taser, you would have your hand on the gun or a taser because someone has a license plate. And I love what the comedian said, that the police have become debt collectors. These are things we have to think about. They talk about the body cameras and all the videos. Well, cops are turning them on, turning them off. They're holding back information, not being accountable for what you see. You know, it's what you see, and then it's what they say you see. So all of these things that I say are for food for thought, to think that defunding the police, there are many organizations out there that are working diligently not to strip the police of their integrity or to treat them badly, but to help the good police in a way that takes pressure off. They're not social workers. So when they go to a site where someone is mentally challenged, their way is force, and that way is death. We can't keep excusing that as an excuse and putting our police in that position. We have trained specialists that have gone to school specifically for this. Let them do the work. And let our police step back from that. So we've learned that defunding the police is not about taking money from the police. It's about reallocating those funds. We spent $100 billion in policing, yet healthcare, education, community, all of those programs, cut. This is a system that cannot continue. Whether you think you are affected or not, you are. At this point, because we're almost out of time, one of the things that people always ask, what can I do? What can I do? My sweet friends that are my white brothers and sisters, what can I do? What can I do? How can I do it? This video was so beautiful. Dr. Joy, I think is her name. It's a short video, but she tells a beautiful story. Let's take a listen to it.
My sister-in-law, who's half black, half white, but looks white. Blue eyes, whiter than most white folks, very white. She and I, we kind of grew up together. We raised our children together. So they're first cousins, and it's a wonderful, very, very multicultural family. So we're going in a Safeway one day. And Kathleen, my sister-in-law, is in front of me. And she's, writing a check for her groceries. Now, my daughter, who at the time was 10 years old, was standing with me, and I was directly behind her, getting ready to get my groceries. So Kathleen comes up, and the checker, who is a strawberry blonde, freckled, very delightful, warm, the checker, this young woman, is talking to Kathleen. Hey, how you doing? Isn't it a nice day today? They're just chatting up. And she says, yeah. So Kathy writes her check, and she steps off to the side with her groceries because she's waiting for me. Of course, again, Kathleen looks white, right? So I come up. No conversation. She looks up at me. Absolutely no, just little chatter. And I write my check. My daughter, however, is 10, notices immediately the difference in how she responds to me. So I write my check, and she goes, I'm going to need 2 pieces of ID. At which point, my daughter looks at me, and she gets very, very embarrassed, and tears are kind of coming up in her eye, like, Mommy, you're not gonna let her do this. Why is she doing this to us, right? So I'm trying to figure out what I should do, because behind me are 2 elderly white women, right? And I'm thinking, okay, so then I become the angry black woman, right? And they're gonna be, and I'm just trying to second guess all the drama. So then I just give her the 2 pieces of ID. I said, you know, some things you got to choose your battles, right? And then it gets worse. She pulls out the bad check book, right? So this is the book that shows the people who've written bad checks. So she starts searching for my license in the bad checks, at which point it's just out of control now. Just as I'm standing there trying to decide what to do, and it's really deeply humiliating. Now my daughter is in full-blown emotionally upset, who's 10. My sister-in-law walks back over. And she steps in and she says, excuse me, why are you doing this? And the checker goes, well, what do you mean? She goes, why are you taking her through all of these changes? Why are you doing that? She goes, well, this is our policy. She goes, no, it's not your policy because you didn't do that with me. Oh, well, I know you've been. She goes, no, she's been here for years. I've only lived here for 3 months. And so at this point, the 2 white elderly ladies go, oh, I can't believe what this checker has done with this woman. And it's totally unacceptable. At which point the manager walks over. So the manager walks over and says, is there a problem here? And then my sister-in-law again responds. She goes, yes, there is a problem here. Here is what happened. So you see, she used her white privilege. And even though Kathleen is half black and half white, she recognizes what that means. And she made the statement. She pointed out the injustice. And she, as a result of that one act, influenced everyone in that space. But what would have happened? I can't know for certain had the black woman said, this is unfair. Why are you doing this to me? Would it have had the same impact? But Kathleen knew that she walked through the world differently than I did. And she used her white privilege to educate and make right a situation that was wrong. That's what you can do every single day.
I love that story. It's so beautifully said. And I wanted to leave you with that because there's so much going on. And this is not about every white person is racist and wrong. This is whomever. And that there is right now a difference. And her sister-in-law recognized, because I've been called that angry black woman. And at times, yeah, I did get angry. But the fact that her sister-in-law stepped in and was white, it was perceived totally different. So I say to you, you can be that voice if you see injustice. You can be that person that can shift and awaken. Because people love to say, well, I'm just following the rules. These are the rules. Well, they're not the rules for everyone. And until they are the rules for everyone, we have to recognize that they can't be the rule for anyone. So I thank you, Dr. Joy, for that beautiful story. And I loved how she talked about her daughter, because possibly not being able to articulate, but feeling it, feeling the difference, feeling not worthy as her aunt, feeling the difference. And so at this time, I want to thank you for being here with us on Kitchen Conversations. It's our conscious giving time. Always on our Racial Equality Project page, we have things that are happening, and I have to share this with you. Our new call to action that will be coming up, and I'm going to ask Reverend Sarah and Linda to also participate. This upcoming week, we have a question that we will be asking. And we're asking each person to go onto Facebook and write their answer. Just to share, to show that it's a simple question. I won't share what it is right now, but we're asking you to go to Facebook, look for it on Sunday, you'll see it. So please, not only you, but pass it on to your friends just to share. and to take the time to think about what it meant to you. So, as I said, now, this is our conscious giving time. I thank you, Universal Spirit Center, for all you do, for your continued love, support, and divine abundance that you constantly share with our community, you globally share with the world. We are a center of well-being. We are a divine consciousness of love and prosperity and joy. All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is one, holy, holy. There's just a few announcements. The Reverend's class, the Bhagavad Gita, the Gita will take place, will take place here at the Lions Club starting October the 13th. I think it starts at 6:30. But all the information is on our webpage. It'll take place here because I think there are about 16, 17 people in the class. So this will be a beautiful space to come and share and dive deeper into this. Also, the movie of the month. The movie of the month this month will be on the last Friday of the month because I'm leaving town and I won't be here on the 3rd. And I don't want you to see the movie of the month without me. It's a great movie. The Hate U Give, really powerful movie. So I'm hoping that you come out, show up, have some popcorn and some M&Ms, and I think that's the 29th at 6:30. We show the movie, 6 o'clock. You get here, get your treats, get your drink on, and after the movie, we unpack it. And we have one more announcement, I think. Oh, just what I talked about. This is our Racial Equality Project. The call to action this upcoming week, we're asking you to share on our Facebook page. And so the question is there, what was your earliest memory of recognizing that some people look different from you? So we're asking you to go on our Facebook page and answer that question. And let's get a conversation happening. All right? Thank you, Reverend Sarah, for coming in, showing up. What a committed angel. She gave all day in school, and then she has some left to give to us tonight. She did a beautiful job running the production. As always, my sweet, wonderful Linda Ely. Linda playing those beautiful keys. Thank you, Linda, for all you do and for your continuous support to keep us musically in just filled with so much love and appreciation. We appreciate you, and we appreciate each and every one of you. I will add that our YouTube channel is blowing up. You got to go check it out. We have things on there 7 days a week. Mystical Mondays. We have Spanish prayers on Tuesday. Awakening or Kitchen Conversation on Wednesday. Thursday, Stop Racism, snippets of truth about racism and facts. On Friday, we have Truth Nuggets, which come from our Sunday gatherings. Beautiful things that ministers like Reverend Sarah and Reverend Kevin have said that just, help you, give you that lift. On Saturday, Sleeping Vibration. That's new. It's so wonderful. It's a wonderful way to unplug and just get into a beautiful harmony and bliss. And then, of course, our Sunday gathering. So go to our YouTube channel, share, like, comment. We need you. We are, just this week, we have 15 new subscribers. So share with your family and friends. There's stuff on there for everyone. And we're working on something for the youth right now. So know that you are part of a global community that is doing things that's here to be a global presence. And we are, but we do it together. So once again, I thank you all for tonight. I thank you for tuning in, joining in, and for sharing. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, good. Oh, good, oh, good. Holy, holy. Ricky Byers, Bethwith. Ricky Byers. Happy 70th. This Sunday is her birthday. Sweet blessings, my sister. Thank you for all that you've given us musically and spiritually. You are one of our divine angels. All good, all good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, my heart, and my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, oh. God bless. Leave.